Hey everybody, I'm Dee Lisa. I'm the dream doula for women. I help them live their best life.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Havel, a sales strategist and a certified disc facilitator.
Ooh, and before we hit record, we were talking about our previous lives. I was a real estate broker for 35 years and she was in finance.
Yes,
Um,
mortgage and finance for 25
yeah,
years
so
corporate.
such a crazy world. And we both used the DISC assessment back then. But tell me more about how you use it and what you do now in the training that you do now.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's a great program. It's really focuses on communication styles and helping people understand their communication style so that they can learn to maybe adapt their communications when talking with other people. Because it really just comes down to the four basic styles. Obviously, there's expansions of it, but everyone falls into typically one of four categories, and it's basically your communication preferences. Some people prefer to be that D, which is just direct and straight to the point. Some people, like myself, were the I, we're more high energy and charismatic. We love being on teams. Lisa, in our conversations, I felt like you're maybe more that S style, which is steady. They don't like a lot of change. They really enjoy collaboration. And then the C style is that conscientious, and they are very cautious. They like things to be very accurate and very detail oriented. So I've just found it really effective when I was in corporate America and now in my own sales training company, is understanding what your style is, kind of what makes you tick. How do you prefer to communicate and how do you like to receive information?
That's so beautiful. Have you ever used it with couples?
Yes, I'm glad you said that because it is a tool. I lose it in a lot of company when in a lot of company trainings and one-on-one coaching, but it's very important for relationships and parents and kids. I don't personally have children, but I have 14 nieces and nephews, and they all have different communication styles. And so as a parent or a aunt or even a mentor, yeah, how do your children like to be communicated? Or your spouse or your partner, right? If you're going out to dinner, they need, where should we go? Oh, I don't know, let's just go anywhere. Or I need to know where we're going, what time, what's the restaurant, what's on the menu, how long are we going for dinner, and what time are we going to get back home, right? So it's once you learn that and you can communicate that way, everything works out so much better.
Oh my gosh. And I think you could layer this on top of the what's it called? The communication styles where people say, my love language is this or that.
Oh yeah, the five love languages, right?
Yeah.
There's the touch, the affirmation, time, gifts, and service, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you could totally just layer this on top of that. So you like to give gifts of service, but how? How would
Mhm.
that be for you or
Right.
be for your spouse? Because your gift of service might not mean anything to them.
Yes, exactly. Like just, even the words of affirmation that really, and are they detailed words of affirmation? So somebody of my style that I'm a real high I. Most people with my behavior style, we like that and we like the acknowledgement. We like to be recognized. We like all the fluff, all the things. People have that other style, a C or S style, where they're a little bit more conservative. They want to be recognized for the work that they've done, but they don't need all the pomp and circumstance. And so, like, if you have teams or you're running teams or a family unit, um, the ones, if you don't give that acknowledgement to the I styles, they tend to feel lost and, not valued and not heard. And then the same thing I hear a lot of times with that S and C style. They're not going to speak up in your team meetings or in relationships. They're not going to give an answer right away because they like to think about things and they don't like a lot of change. And so sometimes if you get more of those strong, dominant personalities, they're kind of like, well, let's go. Come on, make a decision. And that other person feels that pressure. And when they don't feel heard or valued or given that time to process and think things through, they get frustrated. And that's where people will leave a company or leave a manager or, leave a relationship because they just don't feel valued and heard. So it really is a powerful tool, both inside and outside the workplace.
Oh, so great. Well, tell us more about what you do with your company now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the Sales Strategy Network. So I was in corporate America for 25 years, and my job was eliminated in 2023. I was like you, Lisa. I was in mortgage and finance, and The market had shifted and the company was making organizational changes. And it was just at that time, I just decided that it was time for me to start my own company. So I was very successful in corporate America. I led a lot of high performing sales teams. I helped individuals excel to high performing teams. Early in my career, I was tasked with turning over offices. So one of my first assignments was I was working in a bank, and the bank manager, now this was 25 years ago, so you have to bear with the technology and everything. She was 8 months pregnant and she robbed the bank. She went in, she had called a new hire employee, asked them for their codes, got their codes, and turned off the VCR, threw out the tape, and then robbed the bank. And so they said, okay, Stephanie, now we want you to go in, and the team morale is really low here. Customer service is poor. There's controls. The office is a mess. There's no dual control compliance. And so it's time to put all my skills to use. And it was just from that point on that I learned over the 25 years there about communicating with people, learning how people responded to that situation. And if I would have went in and just said, oh, it's going to be fine, let's just go, I had to understand that that was traumatizing to some people and scary. And so I learned right away that I needed to learn how to communicate in different ways with people to help get them on board. And that's how I was so successful in turning over each one of these offices into high performing bank branches. And once I would get that up and going, I would recruit and retain the employees and customer service, and then they'd move to the next one. So it just was kind of natural when my job was eliminated. I just said, I could do this inside of corporate America. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or small to mid-sized companies who don't have these opportunities like I did for training and information. They don't have the resources. So I really I just love to help like small to mid-sized companies understand their communication, what's working in their organization. Or some people will say, things are working great, but I think maybe you do too. There's always a little room for improvement, right? I don't think anybody's ever just like, I've yet to meet somebody who says, you know what? I am so amazing. My company's so amazing. We're so perfect. We don't want to do anything. We don't need to change. We don't need to grow, right? There's always some area where we can grow. And so that's what I really like working, whether it's in companies or maybe it's working on the communication of the company, but they've got some newer leaders or they've got a lot of turnover in their leadership. And that person needs some leadership skills. They don't have a big training department to give that person the right training, the right skills to lead other people. And I'm finding that's where, you talk about this great resignation and why people, and I always say this, people don't leave a company, they leave a manager because they don't
That's so
feel
beautiful.
that manager doesn't hear them or they don't feel valued and heard, which is so important. So that's really what my focus is taking all my experience from corporate America for 25 years, building up these teams, building the team, focusing on communication, helping them with their sales skills, and just helping them get to the next level and just really understanding the value of effective communication. And as a leader, and I stumbled along the way. I'm hundreds of stories about mistakes I made in my leadership in not communicating effectively or not listening to my team. And that cost me. But with every lesson, and I've heard some of the things that you talk about as well. We're learning with every situation, every
Indeed.
lesson we learn.
Indeed. When I really wanted to have a corporate job while I was a self-employed real estate broker for many years. And I thought, I'll just be a manager of an office, right? They get a salary, plus they can sell houses on the side. I had no idea how to do it, but I got a job doing it. And after a few months, the fellow who owned the company and who hired me, who was really a nice guy, he said, Dee, I've heard that your meetings are, well, frankly, a bore.
Oh,
That's what I said. What? He goes, yeah, I realize you're a baby manager and I didn't really help you that much, but you need to make the meetings better. And I remember thinking at the time, meetings are boring. I don't even want to do them. So, of course, I was just thinking, what was the meeting like that I went to at that last company?
mhm.
I'll do what he did. And
Right.
and then I realized his meetings weren't good either. But It was interesting to have someone be super, I mean, honest and critical of my leadership skills because once a week we had a meeting and why? People now might say, why are we having so many meetings? And at the
Mhm.
time, I also asked that question, like, why are we having meetings? Is it to disseminate information? Is it to make it feel like we're a family and a team and we're all collaborating together? Well, that's kind of silly because we're like, we'll drive over each other to sell that house to someone. It's not like we're collaborating in a team.
Right.
But they make it seem like you're in a group and they make it seem like you're in a team when you're in any kind of office situation where you're all working for the same company. And so how you run a meeting, how do you help someone run a meeting and pay attention to all the styles of all the people that are in the meeting so they hit them all?
That's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that, because it's so important to do. And so again, it goes back to, how people receive the information and knowing your team. And I offer assessments. You can take a full-on assessments. It's 28 pages. It's very in-depth, which is great to be able to take the assessment and have each one of your team members take it so you truly know what their style is. But if you're just newer to it, there's ways that I can teach you and train you how to identify people's behavior styles. But one thing, the deep people, those drivers, if you have those straight and to the point, you need to start the meeting on time and let's go. The people in the I style people in the meeting, they need a little bit of acknowledgement. They want to be called on. They want their opinion. You want you to ask their opinion. Some people don't care. They don't need to speak up in the meetings. That's okay. Some people think we're going to go around the room and everybody's going to talk. And then they call on the people who are the S or the C styles, who are not, I should say afraid, but they're more nervous to talk because they need time to think about it. They want to process information. They don't speak up right away because they want to be very accurate in what they say. So when you understand, you let the I people speak first because we'll talk all day long and we get excited and we want a lot of fun and we appreciate that acknowledgement. And then the D people will interject because, they're kind of aggressive, blunt, right to the point. And then you can go to the S and C style people because now they're ready. They've had time to think about it. They've heard what other people have to say, and they're going to feel more confident in what they have to say. So if you really do need to go around the room and have everybody speak up, know who your styles are and let those S and C styles go second or last. So they have time to think and prepare. Then you also need to make sure that you have an agenda. Stick to your agenda because that S and C style people, they're very focused on accuracy and details. Some people, the eyes, we'll be doodling on the agenda. We don't really care. But you've got to provide one so that they know what to expect and what you're going to talk about and then stay on task with that agenda. So it's just those little types of tweaks. I do a lot of professional speaking. And when you're professional speaking, you've got to appeal to the masses. You got to start right away. You got to bring that energy, get right to the point for those D&I people. But then as you're going through your presentation, have some meat and bones to your presentation, and then give them a way to follow up with you for them to hear your presentation again, or to connect with you one-on-one, or to visit your website because they hearing what you're saying, but they want more details. They want more information about you. So making sure that you provide those resources to people when you do a presentation. So that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but kind of how you incorporate everybody on your team in a meeting or at a presentation, or even, if you're hosting an event.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm going to ask you now. What is the weirdest situation you helped a company with?
The weirdest situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily so weird, but during COVID, I think that was such um a unique situation for so many people, right? Nobody had really experienced it. So I was working for a large financial institution and I managed 18 people, and they all sat in different bank locations across the metro area. So I'm in Minnesota, in the United States, and they sat in different bank locations across the state. And so when COVID hit, the bank had said, the banks were staying open, but they just wanted as minimal people as possible working inside the banks for, health reasons. So my team, they said, okay, you're all going to have to work from home now. Well, I was like, woo, okay. I don't have to get up and put on a dress and my high heels and drive all over town and traffic. And I'm trying to, handle sales calls and do things while I'm driving and going into all these different locations every day. And so I was really excited. And I thought I'm going to be so much more productive because I'm not going to be stuck in traffic, going to all these different locations. And so I was on a team call and I was like, woo, okay, this is going to be great. And rates had dropped. The mortgage industry was booming. We were all on commission. So we are going to, we are going to make a lot of money. This is a huge opportunity for us. And as soon as the call was over, I had one of my employees call me up and she's like, I just have to tell you something. Save it. Save a cheerleader attitude. It's rude, it's insensitive. I've talked to everybody on the team and nobody's happy about it. Nobody likes it. We're all frustrated. This is BS that we have to work from home. I don't have my printer. I don't have my large screen. I don't have all stuff that I need. How am I supposed to meet with clients one-on-one? This is ridiculous. And you all cheery, thinking this is so great. Well, get over it because nobody on the team is happy about it. And you are rude and disrespectful. And I was like, okay. And so right away, I'm that kind of that bluntness and, hurt my feelings because so when I sat and thought about it and I looked at my team, I always had my team do the disc behavior style. I knew every one of my team styles. So when, I had mentioned to you earlier that I've made mistakes along the way in my leadership, but with every, mistake I learned. Well, this particular employee was a very high C, or excuse me, a high S. She didn't like a lot of change. She was a little bit older. She was in her early 60s. And so technology was, a little challenging for her. And she was just used to her setup at the bank. She had her laptop, she had her second screen, she had her printer. She liked to print everything off. She didn't want all these electronic documents. And so I said, how can I, make this better for you, Mary? What could I do? And I said, what if I had the technology IT team come out and get your monitor and your printer and set it up at home for you? So you could have your same setup at your home office. And I could arrange with the bank and the bank manager that you could go and work in there 2 days a week and meet clients. So you could just set up to have one-on-one meetings with all of your clients twice a week. And she was like, okay, yeah. And so got that set up for her, everything. Like a week later after that was done, she's like, oh, this is so great. I'm so excited. Isn't this wonderful? Everybody's on board. I've talked to the whole team. And she hadn't talked to the whole team. But that was just kind of her way because she likes collaboration and team. She kind of wanted everybody on board feeling the same way she did. But what I had to do was take a step back and realize that she didn't like change and she didn't want it moving too fast. And by me being so excited about this change and not giving her time to process it and understand it and adapt, I just was like, let's go. We're going to do this and this is how it's going to be. And I did take into consideration that that would be a challenge for her. So as a leader, I had to step back, take things a little slower, answer all her questions, figure out a way to make that an easier process for her. And we had a great relationship. And my team that year, we were 129 in the company and we went to number 19 in the company and we stayed
Nice.
for 2 consecutive years. And I attribute that all because I really focused on communication skills, not only amongst each other, but with our partners. So the people that we had to work with. So some of our team members, they had to go into the office every day and they were not happy about it. And so, we had to understand, look, these people, we need to be a little bit more sensitive, understand what they're going through. They think we have it made because we get to work from home. Well, some people, they got 4 kids and their husband, their dog, and their cat. They don't want to work from home, but they had to, right? So understanding that it wasn't a great thing for everybody. And then going to the office every day wasn't a great thing for everybody. Some of my team loved that. Some people didn't. And then even with our clients, right? People were a little nervous about how do they communicate? We did refinances. People are getting married. People are getting divorced. There's death. That from being in real estate. It's a huge financial decision and a very emotional decision. So when we could understand how to communicate with people more effectively, they were so successful. And they would call and be like, oh my gosh, I got a high D on the phone, right? Or I got this engineer who's
Oh,
so
nice.
I don't know how to handle this customer. I'm like, okay, let's talk through it. They're very analytical. Here's what you're going to need to do to get that person to commit to you, right? Versus going with another lender or that deep person. Get right to the point. You don't need all the fluff. They don't care about all the other stuff. Just tell them, here's 1, 2, 3 things I need from you, and let's go. And it was amazing. And my team, back when I was leading them, I'd always say, coaching is so important. Like, we don't need to hire a coach. We have you. I'm like, well, I think it's always good to have outside coaches and outside support. Well, now that I don't work there, they're all calling me saying, we need you. I'm like, well, great. Now you're going to have to pay for me. You got me free then. You should have listened to me back then. But
Oh
um,
my gosh, yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's so great. And that makes me think about the people who've been happily, or maybe not happily, working from home for years now since COVID started, and now they're going to have to go back to work in the office. And I talked to a young fellow recently. He works in tech, and he said, if my company tells me I have to go back to the office, I'm going to quit. Not
Hmm.
doing it.
Right. And that's where companies, they need to understand like the rollout process, right? Instead of some companies are like, oh, effective next week, we're all going back to the office. And that's kind of what I did, right? And so understanding that, it could be a way that it was communicated to them, like, hey, here's what we need. The reason why we want you to, and tech people are very analytical, right?
Yeah,
Here's the reason why we want to return to office. Reasons A, B, C, and D. And here's how it's going to benefit you, tech employee. That's another thing a company misses is the biggest thing in sales, and you may remember this from your real estate days, it's called the WIFM, WIIFM. What's in it for me? That is what everybody is thinking. So when you are in leadership or a company or organization and you have to roll out a change that's going to impact people, you need to understand they're thinking, what's in it for me? How is this going to benefit me? How is this change going to benefit me? Right? Or, I know the company needs to do it, but how am I going to benefit? Is my stock going to grow? Am I going to get more responsibilities? Is my job, is it going to be more efficient? Why do we
yeah,
have to return to work? What is the reason behind it? Some people need those details and that
yeah,
explanation. And if a company doesn't provide that to them, so sometimes it's not about having to go into work, it's about the way that it's communicated to them and
yeah,
understand what's in it
100%.
for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so great. What is it? What is in it for them? Do they get more cereal in the cafe? Is the bus ride fun so they don't have to drive in their car? When I used to live in Seattle, Amazon was a big employer, Microsoft just across the water, and all these young, tiny tech startups. And if you went before COVID, if you went to the Amazon balls, these dome thing buildings that they built downtown, they're very cool. At
Okay.
the end of the day, you would see bus after bus after bus after bus. They had a private fleet of buses that took people home and brought them to work.
Wow.
And there'd be like the guy with the vest on going, this is the bus to such and such neighborhood. This is the bus to, then all the people wandered out and they got on the buses. And I think the buses had Wi-Fi, so you keep working while you're on the bus, but you didn't have to drive. Because one of the things that happened when Microsoft and Amazon first started in Seattle is people would see how long it would take to commute to work and they wouldn't want to do it
Mm.
because it was like an hour to drive to work and through hellacious morning and evening traffic. So they fixed it with buses. So I'm sure that the call back to work for Amazon and other companies like that, they'll need to fix it with whatever those people need to see
Exactly.
what is it besides the company sees their employees in there.
Well, and share the statistics. If it's collaboration, if they show like, here's our efficiency rates when people are working together, there's more collaboration instead of trying to get somebody on a call, but then they're on another call. And you talk about these meetings,
Yeah,
are we running effective meetings? And then when everybody's there, everybody's more attentive to it. We're not spending all this time trying to send out email, text, phone communications. We're all here. We're all getting the communication in one place. We're all hearing at the same time. Uh, so, and again, maybe it's more efficiencies, maybe it costs them more technology wise or security wise to have people working from home, and that's affecting the company's bottom line.
yeah,
So But if a company, some people will care about it, some don't. But I think, again, they need to understand where the employee is coming from. Like, how is this benefiting us? Is it just because you want us to, at Wells Fargo, where I used to work, they have people come in and do their badges. And is it a matter of you just want to track the people's hours? Like, you badge in at 8 o'clock and your badge out at 5 o'clock. Well, what about these people that, we're in commission sales and mortgage? We're going all over the place. We're meeting realtors and clients at their office and their home to sign documents and so forth. So, so why it doesn't benefit us to be in an office all day, because people aren't coming into our office. They want us to meet where they're at. So tell me, why should I go in every day? So, I think a company just needs to figure out what's in it for the employee. If
Right.
they're rolling out this communication and being very clear about it, very clear and detailed for those people that need it.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So tell us how people can find you and hire you. Because if I had a small company, if my company was bigger than just me right now, I would absolutely hire you to make sure my team was running efficiently. You are the queen of disc.
Well, thank you. If you can't tell, you hear my voice. I'm very passionate about it, because it's so important. So, my email is info@stefanihavel.com, or my company is the Sales Strategy Network. So if you go to the salesstrategynetwork.com, there's actually a lot of resources for you. There's a disc guide, which you can download, which is really fun. It just kind of gives you a little bit of insight, what I mentioned earlier about each one of the four behavior styles. And then I have some fun quizzes on there that you could use with your office, or, maybe same thing for yourself. Maybe if you've got a client or you're interviewing somebody, sometimes it's a fun little quiz that you could take just to kind of figure out what their behavior style is. So you're like, okay, what kind of person am I going to get on this podcast with? Are they going to need a lot of questions and details? Are they going to want to be really short, fast, engaging? It could be really helpful for you in understanding some of your guests,
Yeah.
you have on your
Yeah.
show, or when you're helping people. So yeah, so I would just go to salesstrategynetwork.com, or I'm on all the social media platforms, just Stefani Havel. And I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, I'm there.
Cool. Well, it was lovely to have you on here, Stephanie. And I'll put links to everything in the show notes so people can find you. And thank you for what you do in the world, because I think if we can communicate with people in the way they really want to hear it, that's just one step more to having a beautiful world.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you and your audience today.
Nice. Bye, everybody.